Good morning. We are on Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph 113a. And we're still on the topic of advice, sagely advice from one generation to another. Fathers to sons, teachers to students. That's our topic at the moment. And as of this morning, it's a beautiful day for Eden. 2 hostages rescued, and with Hashem's help, we'll see many more miracles like this. And we'll all be alive and well as these two, at least their body is healthy, and with Hashem's help, their mind and soul is healthy as well. And we'll have miracles locally as well. Okay, so the last set of advice came from Rabbi Chia to his son, right? We mentioned, I'm sorry, Rav to his son. We said that Rav spoke to one son, Chia, and in a minute he's going to speak to his other son, Evu. Chia was the Torah scholar, so he gives him one set of advice, which is about quite a bit about like integrity and personal integrity, not to get hooked on medication, right? Not to take big strides in this arrogant kind of fashion of walking, and not to provoke snakes, not to provoke non-Jews. So before the Gemara gets to Rabbi Chia's, I'm sorry,
snakes or non-Jews, or
snakes and or don't provoke them. You think you're all high and mighty? Don't do that. All right. And before the Gemara gets to the teachings Rav gave to his other son, Evu, the Gemara interrupts to discuss about not provoking and cites to a Mishnaic source that speaks to refraining from provoking those who at the moment seem to be insignificant, but have long memories and one day will come back to haunt you. Namely, Tana Rabbanan, our sages taught this, is a Mishnaic text. Gimel, there are 3. Ein miskanen bahen, one should not provoke them. Even though at the moment you think, no big deal, they're small little kids, or they're small little things, who cares? But nonetheless, one should not provoke them. Ve'elohein, and they are as follows. Number 1, Nachri Katan, a non-Jewish young child. Nachash Katan, a young little snake. The Talmud Katan, and a young student. Don't provoke any of these 3. My timer, what's the reason? De malchusayu achore ordinayu. Literally, that means their kingdom stands. Achore ordinayu koi. Their kingdom stands behind their ears. That's literally what it means. What that means to say is they're young now. They're gonna grow up, and they're gonna remember those people who mistreated them, provoked them when they were defenseless, and God forbid it'll come back to haunt you.
Who do they mean by a snake?
Sorry?
Who do they mean by a snake?
Literally a snake.
Oh, literally.
I think it means literally a snake, at least on the simple.
Like 2 humans and a snake.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's a deeper meaning to what snake means, but on the simple level, it means literally a snake. Snakes, I suppose, have good memory and they remember who you are. And
be a sneaky person.
Who could be a sneaky person too. It speaks to like the long-term impact of adults who tease or provoke children.
Yeah. I was thinking it was more specific sentiment of the child. Harmful at that age, not when they grow up.
It's harmful to the children at that age.
No, I know.
But then it comes back to bite you later.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was thinking more like how they could be menacing even as a child.
Right.
Like, because kids, they don't, they may not think of the consequences of their actions. So
Yeah.
they may go do something.
Yeah.
In
You have to.
retaliation,
Yeah.
which they won't
You'd have to explain what the Gemara means when it says their kingdom is behind their ears, right?
on their years.
Ears.
Yeah.
So the meaning, the way Rashi and Rashbam explain it, is that they have years ahead of them, right, in which they will grow up. Yeah. Yes, I think it speaks to the long-term effects, like they have it intergenerational trauma. The abused become the abusers.
So we take that same idea with the young snake as well. I suppose.
Yeah. The young snake as well. Yeah.
It'll
So I don't remember you necessarily, but maybe if the snake grew up and had this like a negative relationship with humans from a very young age, it'll stick with the snake, and then it'll look for humans to hurt later in life because that's its memories of a child is right. And you think it's a no big deal. You're provoking a little kid, it's fun. It's fun. No. You do that to a child, and the child remembers, and it comes back later to haunt everyone in their life. So therefore, no provoking little children, young students, right? Not young non-Jewish kids, young snakes, and young students, right? Especially young students, one day will become the scholars and the leaders. You don't want them to have that kind of negative experience in their childhood. It'll come out in negative ways when they're older.
Right, because then they'll be in positions of authority, and then
Exactly.
unjustly rule against.
They will exactly. They will eventually be in positions of authority and take that bad experience you gave them and turn into bad behavior as adults. They'll grow out of it. Don't do that. Yeah, they'll grow out of it. No. You'll leave a long-term scar on them. God forbid. Okay. So with that, sorry.
This happened to my uncle. I was maybe 8 years old. I never forgive him.
Okay. So now we have the advice that Rav gives to his other son Evu. Right? So Rav spoke to his son Chia. Now he's speaking to his son Evu. Le'evu brei, to Evu his son. He said as follows: Tarchi bach, I worked hard. I exerted effort for you. B'shmaita, in learning, I tried to teach you how to learn Torah. And it didn't work out. So let me now, Agmarcha, teach you Mili Da'alma, matters of the world. So you're not going to be a Torah scholar. That's okay. I'm going to now teach you how to make a living and how to live, some advice for the world. Before we even get to the advice he gives him, this already is a good lesson. A parent, especially one who's thoroughly inclined to Torah study, as Rav was, obviously wants that for their children. And it's, coming on the heels of the advice before, not to give your kids traumatic experiences. It's important that a parent know when the limits are and to accept it. So what you expected of your children are not your props. They're not your property. They're not there for you to decide what you educate them the best that you can, but be aware of their capacities, what they can do and what they can't do. And if they don't fit the exact picture of perfection that you had in your mind, that's okay. They can do something else in life. And you have to guide them there too and support them in that as well. So even before we get to the advice he gives them, this already is a lesson. Certainly Rav wanted his children to be scholars. He did. He says, I tried teaching you Torah. It's not for you. That's okay. You're going to go into the business world. So I'm going to teach you how to be a mensch and how to do business well. That itself is a lesson right there. That a parent has to have awareness of their children's abilities and know when to fold. Right? Know when to stop pushing their agenda on their children. Even if it's an agenda of Torah learning. He wants his kids to be a scholar. What could be better than agenda than that? Nothing's better agenda. But you got to be aware. Here's a child who's just not for him. Good, it's not for him. Another path in life. Guide him there too. Didn't say, oh, you're not in Torah learning. So I wasted my time. Go figure it out yourself. No. Guides him. So here's the advice he gives him. Number one, Adachala akarech. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Zvinach zoven. While the sand is still on your feet, sell your product, sell your merchandise. Meaning, you travel to go buy merchandise and you come back, sell right away. People have this idea, I'll save, the price will go up, I'll sell later, and then they get stuck with a whole truckload of stuff in their warehouse. The sand is still on your feet. You just came back from the road. Sell right away. You got the products, you got a buyer, sell. You'll see how the next piece of advice connects. It says, that was advice number 1, sell right away. Advice number 2, call mili zovin v'ticharet. Everything you sell, you're going to regret. Oh, I could have sold that at a better price later. Bar machamra, with the exception of wine, the zovin that you sell it, v'loy ticharet, and you don't regret it, because wine will go bad. It'll become vinegar if you don't sell it right away. So what does he mean here? He just made a statement. You'll regret everything you sell, except for wine, which if you won't regret selling it right away because it's going to go bad if you don't sell it. What's he trying to tell him?
It's weird because our statement was saying to sell everything right away.
Now
you're
so I think what he's saying is,
sell everything.
Wait, so before he said sell right away,
Wine.
and now he's telling him you're going to regret selling everything quickly. What is he trying to say? Right?
Selling wine is
Yeah. So I think what he's trying to say is,
at least one you could preserve.
well, he says the opposite. Wine will go bad if you don't sell it right away. It'll turn to vinegar.
Once
No,
it
you
passes
had
the
aged wine, but once it hits a certain,
Once it's at its peak age,
it's done.
it just goes
I
downhill.
know, we were scuba diving once, we found the bottle in the bottom of the river of wine. All
How old was
closed.
it?
We drank it. It was from 1921.
Oh wow, drank it. Why'd you sell
We
it?
drank it, we tasted
Okay.
it, we drank it, and it was fun.
No, anyway, I don't know which process in the wine he means this, but this is what he says. I think what he means is, I'm not 100% sure, but I think what he means is, meaning he could be saying, okay, sell merchandise when you have a buyer, but some things you see them going up, wait to sell them later. But I don't think that's what he means. I think what he means actually is, you're always going to regret something you sold. So get over it. In other words, except for wine, which is going to go bad tomorrow morning, everything else, you're always going to say, oh, I could have kept it and sold it later. Oh, I could have sold it later. And you're going to constantly live with this insanity. Forget it. You'll always regret selling it. You sell it in 2 months from now, you're going to regret, why didn't they sell it in 3 months? You sell it in 3 months, you're going to regret, why didn't they sell it in 5 months? And then when you finally sell in 5 months, you're going to regret, why didn't they sell it at 2 months? Just sell it when you have it and then let go. Because you're always going to be regretting, I could have sold it later. This is true, especially you think about it in the modern real estate market. I got in early, I got in late, I could have sold late, I could have sold earlier.
The stock market.
Or the stock market, I could have sold early, I should have waited a day. You have a buyer, sell. And stop worrying. I think that's what he means to say. You're always going to regret it. So it's not worth it. Maybe that's what he means here. I don't know. I'm sure anybody listening is welcome to give another interpretation. Because the literal meaning is, you'll regret selling everything, with the exception of wine, that you won't regret selling it. Rashbam explains it. You'll regret selling everything because at some point it's going to become more expensive and you could have sold it for more, with the exception of wine, which is going to go bad.
Ease your mind, in other words.
I think what he means is ease your mind. You're going to regret it anyway. It's not, if you
Don't
wait until today, you'll regret it that you didn't sell it till tomorrow. And when you sell it tomorrow, you'll regret it, you didn't sell it yesterday. So just stop. You have the products, sell it. That's what I think he means.
Peace of mind.
I think that's what I think he means. But if there's another interpretation someone has, feel free.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's like you have something and it's worth, let's say you bought it for $15 and next week it's worth $25.
Yeah.
You can sell it. Don't
That's
wait for
it.
it to go to $40.
Oh, exactly.
Because if you wait at that time, it's allowed to be $10.
And you won't have a buyer, and then you'll constantly regret when you sold it. So just sell it when you have it, and that's it.
So can you make a profit?
That's what I think he means. Okay, third piece of advice.
Day trading advice.
Well, yeah,
But that's it.
yeah, 100%. That's what he's saying. I think that's what he's saying. Advice number 3: Sari kisach ptach sakich. Open your wallet, then open your bag. Meaning, first collect payment, and then give the product. Payment in advance. Yeah, and he says, "Kava ma'ara v'loy kura mi'igra." Better to get a kav, which is a small measurement, from the ground, than a kur, which is a big measurement from the roof. What he means is, better get into a business that's local, where maybe you're not making as the possibility for wealth is lower than going into some international business where you're selling who knows where and the potentials are much higher. I think again, for the stress level, you're out somewhere else. Your business is, you're sleeping here, your business is there, and it's too far away to manage, and you're constantly stressed about it, even though the profits are very high. Better a local business that you can watch and monitor. That's what he seems to be saying. Better make money locally in a place that you know nearby rather than go some far away and all the risks involved and the stress involved and so on.
You're more likely the probability of collecting on a local business transaction is much greater than if you were doing overseas business.
Correct, especially in those days.
Your probability of collecting is probably diminished.
That's your ability to collect is higher, is more difficult, and you have the stresses. It's especially in those days. Especially in those days where like going to do business overseas was a big to do, right?
Much more than today.
Yeah, today, international is local on your phone, but in the old days, even today,
today there's
having real estate 2 doors down from you is much easier to manage than having real estate in the next city over.
There's different laws that apply. Which law will apply this
transaction?
It also mean get a job on the ground or do work on the ground, because if you work on the profits are probably higher if you work on a roof, but you'll have to fall off.
Okay, so he could mean literally too. Literally get a job on the ground rather than a job that requires risk, right? So Rashbam is taking it figuratively on the roof as in far away, but maybe literally, like take a job on the ground rather than climbing.
High risk pays more.
High risk pays more, but it's high risk. Yeah, I suppose you can learn it that way too.
Trading in stock, trading in options contracts.
Yeah.
2 worlds apart.
Okay, next piece of advice, which is similar to what he said earlier. Tamar b'chaluzach, if you have dates in your warehouse or whatever they would store their dates in, lebei sudana hirahit, run to the brewery. The brewery.
Yeah,
make date wine or date beer in the old day. Do that right away. Dates will go bad. You got the dates, get it done, get it sold right away. Again, getting back to the same advice before. You have products. Get it, move the product. Don't wait for some speculation. You got the product, go, move it.
Maybe
you have dates, run to the brewery, sell it, make it happen.
You may make less profit selling it to the date brewery than if you were to sell the dates, let's say,
to a warehouse of some sort.
Just on the date market, whatever.
Or going to the market and selling bit by bit. By the time you sell it all, it's rot. It's gone. Exactly. Yeah. So kama, how much did you leave behind for yourself? Amar Rava says, I guess it's an interruption or this ends Rav statements. Now comes the Gemara speaking about it. So kama, until how much should you keep? Amar Rava says, ad tlasa 3 sa'a of the measurement, 3 sa'a of dates you can keep behind. The rest, take it to the brewery and get it sold right away and sell it to there. Amar Papa said, Eloi, Deramai Shikra, if I were not in the business of making beer, Loi Tari, I would never be wealthy. Papa was in the beer business. He says, if not for the beer business, I would not be wealthy as I am today.
For him.
What?
For him.
Ikidarmi, others say that actually it wasn't Rav Papa who said this, but Amar Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda said it. Eloi Deramai Shikra, if I were not a person engaged in the business of making beer, Loi Tari, I wouldn't be wealthy.
About to see the connection here.
Sorry? Tangents. The Gemara is going from one thing to the next. We spoke about making beer. The Gemara cites the 2 sages who were in the beer business, and either one of the 2 or both of them made the statement saying, thank God I'm in the beer business. It did very well for me. There's a few places in the Gemara where it indicates that beer was a very popular drink in Babylonia. Date beer specifically.
Does anyone ever make this?
Date beer? I mean, it's not so. Today we have like wheat, hop, barley mostly. But date beer is interesting. But it seems the Gemara speaks of it quite a bit, so I imagine it was pretty popular back in those days.
Dates were popular in those days.
Well, it's right. This is the most.
They were in that area.
In that area, that dates. It's correct.
In that area today.
Iraq, Iran, it was lots of dates. Yeah.
Israel could theoretically have date beer.
This is in Babylonia.
Or in Iraq, right?
But I suppose the date palms are probably definitely much more common there than they are certainly in Eastern Europe all of Europe actually for that matter. Israel would have it too, yeah. Yeah.
Never heard of date beer today.
Try it. Let us know how it goes. We'll drink together with you.
If I ever come back.
Yeah. So the Gemara asks, "My sudna." What's the meaning of this word sudna? Sudna is the brewery. The Gemara said earlier that Rav told his son Evu, you have dates, run to the brewery. The brewery was called Sudna, the base Sudna. Why Sudna? Amar Rav Chizda, Rav Chizda said, one of the two sages we just mentioned before, who was in the date business and was thankful that he was in it because he did well. Rav Chizda said, Soid Na is called Sudna because the word Sudna comes from two words in Hebrew, Soid Na. It's a good secret. It's a good secret,
You
meaning
should go into the date.
this is a good, it's a good secret, it's a good business to get into. Yeah, this is a good piece of advice to get into this business. V'gmilas chasadim, and it brings good acts of goodness and kindness. He explains,
Sweet.
because you can give lots of tzedakah from it. And the reason you can give lots of tzedakah from it is because the margins are very high, because you have very little to invest in. The initial investment, the keren, the initial what's the word? The initial investment, the initial what's the word?
The outlet,
No, there's a word for it when you like having a business. You have like the original lump sum, and then there's the interest. What's the original lump sum called?
Down payment.
So the original investment into it is very little, so the margins are very high, and therefore allows you to give a lot of gemilas chesed. There are some businesses which make a lot of profit, but you have it's like high turnover
like
with
grocery
small
stores,
margins.
Grocery stores.
Yeah, so you can't give a lot of cash away because the cash that comes in you
Profit
need to go
margins
back
are
into your right. So even if you're doing well, but you have to sell a lot of high volume.
high volume
It's a high volume business, so you're never like flush in cash. But the date business, apparently, I guess dates are very cheap locally. It's just a question of the craft of knowing how to take that dates and make it into beer. But the actual money investment is very little. So I guess you have to just, in order to do well in the beer business, you just have to know how to make a good beer. But you don't have to have a lot of money to invest in it. Other businesses, it's not a question of how much skill you have, but so much of how much money you have. And if you have a high capital, you can do business. But with a date palm, it's not a question of money, it's a question of skill. So considering that Rav Chizda had the skill, made good money on his date thing, and the investment is very low, he was always flush for cash. He was very easy. He was very capable, it was very lucrative, and therefore he's capable of giving a lot of help to the poor because he always had cash on hand.
Right, it was an easy business to get into because you didn't need a big
You don't need a big investment,
investment.
but you need a skill.
Yeah,
Right?
You have to learn the skill.
That's it. And that's why it's so no, it's a good secret, it's good advice to get into it. Because it's
Learn dates.
a lot of big investment, big returns. You can give charity, make a good living. Okay, one more statement of pieces of advice. Amar Rav Papa said as a piece of advice for the world. Rav Papa is the other sage who was in the date beer business. Rav Chizda and Rav Papa. So Rav Chizda just told us why it's called Sidna, because it's this great piece of advice for high margin business. So you can give a lot of charity. And Rav Papa, who is also in the beer business, said the following.
It seemed like there were a lot of players in this beer business.
So far we have two, but I think there are others. Says the Gemara, says to Rav Papa, call Agav Gvia boy. Every contractual payment still requires collection. So there's a loan, and the loan was done with the contract. So you feel like, oh, it's foolproof. I got a contract. I'm going to collect.
Like a promissory note kind of thing.
No, like a contract. Whatever. I have a loan, and
You lent money.
lent money and a contract with witnesses that say that Mr. X owes Mr. Y. So Mr. Y is excited. He has he's got a contract. It's foolproof. No one could deny that he'll win a court case if he gets taken to court over this loan because he got a contract. But nonetheless, as our puppy, you still got to collect it. There's always that.
They always say that you could bring that piece of paper to court and get a judgment. Then
Yeah.
the real business is collecting it.
You still got. There's
You
still
have to
the.
enforce it. You
There's
have to
still the
enforce
effort.
judgment.
That's right. There's still the effort of going to collect. Right. So that's what our pup is saying.
Unless you have collateral. It's a secured.
Yeah, it's true.
Secured.
He doesn't mention anything about securities.
Loan.
But even so, you still have to go collect. You still got to go to court. You got to prove it. You have to this. You have to that. It's a whole schlepperei. He's telling you that. I'm not sure he's telling you not to do that. He's telling you a fact.
Today, what they do is people not only sign notes, but they sign confessions of judgment. So they confess the judgment already.
Right.
And they-
But even so, it's you have to
It's
get a
like
lawyer.
fill out
It's
the
it's always a
report.
schlep. Number two, kol ashroi. If you sell on credit, suffix asi, it's doubt whether you'll get the money. Suffix loy asi, perhaps the money won't arrive at all.
because
Right.
You can't charge interest, so
I suppose our papa was in the beer business, right? So we said before it's very lucrative and it's high margins, which Rav Chizda said you can do gemilas chasadim, acts of kindness.
cheap to make.
Now, acts of kindness include gemilas chasadim is often like a gemach. It's often referred to as loans. So maybe our papa, considering there was a high margin business, cash business, he was giving lots of people loans. So he's telling people, just so you know, you're going to get into giving out loans. You should know it's a shlepperai to go collect. And number two, if he's in the brewery business, I suppose he's selling on credit. He wasn't taking Rav's advice to Eva, which said first take the cash, then give the product. He was selling on credit. I guess in bars they do that. He said when you sell on credit, there's always the doubt: either you will be able to collect or you won't be able to collect. And finally, the da'asi, even the money you do collect when someone buys on credit, ma'ois ra'ois, it's bad money, in the sense that Rashbam explains it, you don't get the money all in one lump sum. The guy pays back a little, then he pays a little more. So even when you do get to collect the money, it's annoying money because you have to sit there and collect 5, 10, 20. This guy got a credit note or whatever. His bill at the bar is whatever, and you're collecting pennies.
His tab ran high.
That's right. So even the money you do collect after selling on credit, it's quote bad money. It's annoying money to sit there collecting one piece at a time.
The law exists in those days.
Most stores in Nino, they are, yeah.
Where if you lend to a Jew, you can't charge an interest.
Sure.
Yeah,
He doesn't speak of Jews or non-Jews. It could be non-Jews and it could be on interest too.
Non-Jews, he could charge interest.
It's very possible that he's speaking about non-Jews and he's giving out loans on interest and selling beer on credit on interest. It's possible. It's still a pain, is what he's saying.
Well, at least he recovered some money through interest.
Yeah. So it could be Rav Chizda saying,
not so bad at business.
Sorry?
Not so bad an endeavor if you can charge interest, then you can, even if the loan goes sour, at least you recovered some interest.
There's still effort to go in there. He's saying nothing is secure. Nothing is like a guarantee. That's it. Oh, you gave a loan on a contract. I'm good to go. No, you're still going to have to work to get that money back. And you're selling on credit. Oh yeah, making interest. It's going to be annoying to collect it. You might get it. You might not get it. And when you do get it, it's annoying. So just so you know what you're getting into in this business.
It's just good advice.
It's good advice. Okay,
But
so
thank God the business is as it is, that he's able to lend out money. Whether he's upset or not.
That sounds more like what Rav Chizda was saying.
The upside of it.
That's what Rav Chizda was saying.
Treat it as tzedakah.
That's what Rav Chizda was saying. It's a lucrative business. That's what Rav Chizda was saying. It's a lucrative business, and therefore you can do lots of acts of kindness with it. That's what Rav Chizda was saying.
He's in the position of being able to do that.
Yes, I think that these two statements go together. Rav Chizda was saying it's a lucrative business. You can do lots of kindness. And Rav Papa is saying, just so you know, you do lots of kindness. It's work. It's work to take care of your kindnesses. I don't know if he's
a bunch of rubbies also.
Sorry?
Maybe sending it to a bunch of rubbies also, where they're hooked on it and they have to get it.
Anyway, so this goes for today's advice. God willing, tomorrow some more advice. The next few pieces of advice come from sages of the first generation of the Amoraic era, who were in Eretz Yisrael, studied under the author of the Mishnah Rabbi Yehuda, and came to Babylonia, and they bring with them some pieces of advice that they heard whilst still in Eretz Yisrael. That's coming, God willing, tomorrow. Wonderful day, and God willing, more miracles. So get into the business. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah, let me know.
I will be your customer. Have a wonderful day. We'll have a little tasting here.
Round table, oval table.
We'll have a tasting.
Tasting of some date beer.
Okay, have a good day.
Tell that lady you